Hello. This video provides a hint to a challenge in Dragon World of trying to add coins. So part of the issue is that we don't have the coin defined in our atlas.json yet. So somehow we have to add all this JSON data to define where the coin is located. So the first place I would kind of start with that process is I check out my sprite sheet that I have, my sprite atlas, and that's with this link that's right here. So if I open that up, I can take a look at what this is. So here are the coins. So as long as I can figure out the X and the Y position in this image, and then just some other details, then I can grab those images there. So maybe you're using this as an example for how to get the potions or how to get the different enemies. It's essentially about just trying to figure out where these images are located, and then how wide they are and everything else. So I'm doing this example with coin because it's harder than some other things. If you are just trying to get another enemy, it's actually very similar to ogre. So you can use the ogre code as a good comparison for what these other things should be. So I see that the coins are here and try to figure out those X and Y positions. So I'm going to go into my atlas.json, which is where I can define sprite data. I'm going to use the chest code as my template. So I'm going to copy all the chest stuff from the start of chest down to that closing curly brace there. And I'll paste it in the same spot. Just making sure to change the name to coin then. All right, so I believe the number is 288 and then 272. 288 for the X and then 272 for the Y value. This is where you have to figure out those positions, or maybe you can just look that up somewhere. Um, I just know that it's kind of over one to the left and up two cells that are 16 pixels each, so that's how I figured out that. And then the width is going to be 32, I believe, because there's 4 frames, but they're half that size, so 4 times 8 is 32, so I got that. Height stays the same as 16. Slice X is actually 4. There are 4 frames for coin. And then for this animations, the coin does have an animation, but instead of calling it open, I'm going to call it spin. And that goes from index 0 up to index 3. There are 4 of those frames, but if I start counting from 0, I get 0, 1, 2, 3. 4 frames has 3 as the last index number. And loop will be true. I do want it to keep looping. That's the only animation that coin has. So I'm going to delete the close animation stuff here and then delete that trailing comma. So now I have the proper data in my JSON for the atlas.json for coin. So now it knows where the image is, what to do with it. So the next step would be to start to add in some of the sprite information. Just like we have this W is like a wall, B is a barrier, O is an ogre, C was a chest. So I think chest is going to be pretty helpful for coin as well. So I'm going to copy all the C is a chest stuff and then paste it down below. So I'm going to use the money sign as my symbol for coin. That seems appropriate. It's just a character, doesn't matter what it is. So hopefully you can recognize to change some of these things. I mean, definitely change the tag to like coin. When it comes to using a sprite, we'll use the coin sprite. And there might be some other differences, so I'll leave that to you. This is just a hint video. But you probably want to start the animation, so let me remind you how that works. That in the sprite component, you can tell it what sprite to use, but you could also give it details like, should it start with an animation? Should the width and height be any different? So I'm going to say comma and then curly braces. That then allows me to type some JSON data for those configurations. And anim is the property, anim colon quote spin. Oh, this just gives it that anim property and tells it spin is the animation that's supposed to start from the beginning. So notice how that's just the second parameter. That JSON object, well, JavaScript object, is the second parameter of the sprite component. And that's actually what we did with Ogre. Was the same. We told it to start the run animation. So if you're using this video to help you with making another enemy, Ogre is probably a better comparison. And notice how it also started an animation for you. And I want to underline that point again, because notice how like this red character here is directly underneath the ogre, that we already have the ogre, where this guy with the brain is above it. So, and there's same number of frames, the animations are set up the same. So adding a new enemy isn't much different than what we did with the ogre in the first place. So you can apply those steps that we did just to a new character. All right. So that will at least get the sprites more or less in there. I will let you go from there to actually get them in your levels and set up the collision. Um, so one last thing I just wanted to show you was like, how did I even know to do this? What in the Kaboom documentation tells me that's what I do? And this might help you with other problems that you're trying to solve in the future. So Sprite seemed to be involved, so I might open up the Sprite component here. It's like, okay, yeah, I know what Sprite is. Give it a string for what Sprite I want. But the second parameter is optional. I could maybe, that's what the question mark tells me, that maybe I do this. I could maybe give it some options here. And these are the different kinds of things that I could specify in that JSON object. And these all have question marks, so it's just telling me I don't have to do any of them. But I looked through here and I saw anim and saw, ooh, I can just play an animation from the beginning. And that's a very helpful thing. And there are some other properties here. But just know, like in most of these components, you could maybe provide it an options object. So if you click on that in the Kaboom documentation, you can explore the kinds of properties that you can set. Um, like this tiled option could actually be kind of nice for platforms. So there's many more configurations that you can do than just the basics.